Pam Bondi thought she was walking into a routine session. What she didn't know was that Jasmine Crockett had the emails, the time-stamps, the signed letters, and a plan to bring every contradiction into the light in front of the nation. It was supposed to be just another oversight session, no chaos, no fireworks, just suits, microphones, and the usual scripted dance of testimony. But the mood inside the hearing room on Capitol Hill that Tuesday morning didn't feel ordinary. Jasmine Crockett sat quietly at the end of the committee table, posture still, eyes fixed, pen in hand. She didn't flip through her notes like the others. She didn't sip coffee. She just watched. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi was seated 2 rows down, testifying under oath. Her voice was steady. She'd been here before. She knew how to handle pressure, or at least she thought she did. I've had no direct communication with Westbridge Strategies or its affiliates in the last 12 months, Bondi said, eyes calmly scanning the faces in front of her. A few heads nodded. The chairman scribbled something on a yellow notepad. One representative whispered to another, the kind of movements you'd expect when people thought the hearing was on autopilot. But not Jasmine. She blinked slowly, like she was counting in her head. 5 seconds passed, then 10. She leaned into her mic. Miss Bondi, Jasmine began, voice low but direct. Could you repeat that last statement for the record? Pam turned slightly toward her, wearing the kind of polite smile people reserve for kids asking too many questions. Certainly, she said, repeating her denial word for word. Jasmine clicked her pen once. Then she said nothing, just stared at her for a beat too long. Pam shifted, a subtle change, but anyone watching closely could feel it. Her body adjusted in the chair. She lifted her chin as if she suddenly needed air. That's when the temperature in the room seemed to drop. The clerk at the side table coughed. One of the press photographers adjusted their lens. It wasn't loud, but the atmosphere had changed, like something had been let in, and no one quite knew what to do with it yet. Jasmine's voice cut through again, firmer this time. You're aware that Westbridge Strategies is currently under federal investigation for illegal lobbying tied to the Ellington environmental contract in Oregon. Pam hesitated, then nodded once. I've read the reports, yes. And you're sure, Jasmine continued, her tone neutral but pressing, that you haven't communicated with anyone from that female phone in person since last October? Pam crossed her legs slowly, adjusting her suit jacket. That's correct. Another pause. Jasmine glanced briefly down at the folder in front of her. It was slim, almost unimpressive in size. Just a manila folder with a single blue post-it stuck to the edge. No theatrics, no flourish. She opened it. What happened next wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It didn't come with gasps or shouting. It came quietly in Jasmine's voice as she read out loud, March 18th, 9:47 a.m. Hi Pam. Just looping back with the revised talking points. Let us know if you're still comfortable pushing this at your Thursday appearance. Jeff, Westbridge Strategies. Pam's lips parted slightly. Her jaw stiffened, but she didn't speak. Jasmine looked up. Do you recognize this email? No answer. The room had shifted again. No one was flipping through papers anymore. Staffers stared, cameras locked on. Jasmine held up a printout. For the record, there's more. But before I continue, do you still stand by your sworn testimony that you've had no contact with this firm? Silence. Pam opened her mouth. But no sound came out. She glanced at the chairman as if hoping for a lifeline. There wasn't one. I'd need to check my records, she said finally, her voice cracking slightly. Jasmine didn't smile. Didn't gloat. She simply placed the document face up on the table. The timestamp is from a Westbridge domain. The address is tied directly to Jeff Raoul, lead consultant. You replied 12 minutes later with, quote, looks good. I'll run it by Brian and confirm. Pam looked down at the table. Her fingers curled into her palm. Someone in the back of the room let out a breath they didn't realize they were holding, but Jasmine wasn't finished. The room was only beginning to understand what was coming next. Pam tried to recover. She cleared her throat, adjusted the mic, and offered the kind of answer politicians lean on when they're cornered. Representative Crockett, I receive dozens of emails each day, many from unsolicited sources. It's entirely possible that something was sent without my acknowledgement or review. I'd have to see the full thread to understand the context. That's when Jasmine tilted her head slightly and gave the faintest nod, not of agreement but of recognition. She'd heard this kind of dance before. She leaned back just a little, folding her hands. Context is important, Jasmine replied coolly. So let's make sure we get all of it. Pam gave a short laugh, the kind that isn't really about humor. A smirk crept in, a flicker of that old confidence. I mean, respectfully, representative. This feels more like a cross-examination than an oversight hearing. A few soft chuckles fluttered from the gallery. Jasmine didn't flinch. Respectfully, Miss Bondi, she said, when someone gives sworn testimony before a congressional committee, and that testimony doesn't match documented communication, that's not a feeling, that's a problem. Pam's expression tightened, the smirk vanished. Jasmine reached for the second document. Her nails tapped lightly against the tabletop as she held it up. April 6th, subject line, urgent coordination, Governor's Office talking points. Sender, Westbridge, CC'd to you and 2 staff members from your private consulting firm. Care to explain what kind of coordination that was? Pam opened her mouth to speak, but Jasmine continued, without giving her the space. You replied with a PDF attachment. The metadata confirms your device sent it. The committee room shifted again, eyes widened. Let me be clear, Jasmine said. This isn't about your memory. This is about accountability. You sat in that chair and denied contact. Now we have timestamps, IP logs, and chain correspondence showing not just contact, but active participation. Pam reached for her water bottle. Her hand trembled just slightly. The chairman leaned toward his mic. Miss Bondi, would you like to respond before we move forward? Pam inhaled slowly. There may have been staff-level interactions. I wasn't directly involved in all correspondence. Sometimes my name gets included. That's not what the message says, Jasmine interrupted. Her tone wasn't angry, it was surgical. It says, quote, Pam approved this version, moving forward with her draft. The room went completely quiet. Jasmine's voice softened, but her words hit harder. You were not just looped in, you were leading it. There was no smirk now. Pam stared at the folder on the table like it might burst into flames. Then came a voice from another committee member. Madam Chair, we may need to review the full thread of documents before allowing this line of questioning to continue. But Jasmine didn't take the bait. She calmly said, happy to submit every page into the record, but the public deserves answers in real time, not behind closed doors. It wasn't grandstanding, it was clarity. Jasmine wasn't there to score points. She was there to peel back the layers.